Hello, Dorothy Siminovitch here. I was so proud to be part of the CoachesCare 2020, and I'd like to follow that up by showing this graph that we've been using to help understand the challenges of how to deal with COVID-19. And this graph illustrates that there are three zones from which people are responding. The first is the zone of fear, and of course all of us. We feel fear in relation to the issue of pandemic. Threats to our well-being, the well-being of those we love or care about, or our work. And fear is a normal response to any kind of threat because it signals the need to take care of ourselves. Self-survival is just the part of the human fabric of existence, and so should it be. But one of the things is, if we're a coach or a leader in supporting others, is we want to encourage taking care, responding to the signs of fear. But for so many people stay in a fear mode even after they've taken the actions of social distancing and all the other tasks to self-preserve. And when people are in a fear mode, they actually feel, the word is amygdala hijack. They feel feelings of panic or wanting to either confront those fears with some fighting attitude or run away from or even freeze. That is because under the feelings of fear, we really close down our higher level thinking and react reactively. We act out of panic. And so one of the things as coaches or consultants, leaders, is we want to help break the cycle of fear to help people move through that so that they can focus on what are the opportunities to manage. But when people are in fear, telling them that they're in fear actually does not work. That's called a judgment. So one of the things that we can do when we see people in fear is to respond with understanding. Understanding is a statement of empathy, a bridge from me to you, to stand together as a we, to support others to move through fear towards opportunity. And interrupting fear requires breathing practices, and really requires reality testing in terms of this is not where we are, where are we? Also making sure not to reactivate old traumas, even if those traumas are illogical. So knowing how to manage fear is now a required new competency of these times. The second zone in these times is to understand the need for learning. So much is changing that learning, I call it the chicken soup of responding to uncertainty. And how to respond to learning challenges is we need to guide our clients all over the world that learning will always throw us into a zone of discomfort. If it's not discomfort, it's really not learning. Learning something new requires a period of awkwardness and discomfort and sometimes even moments of failure in service of new learning. So as coaches, we can support people by provoking them with questions. What are you doing to support yourself? Who can you be turning to for support? What we have learned is that learning with support shortens the learning cycle. And learning with support is this new competency that's needed for these times. I know that I am always challenged asking for support. Isn't that an interesting competency to be working on? In fact, I find that people who are really skilled and used to being in charge have the greatest challenge in asking for support. So learning how to ask for support is a necessary new skill in being able to learn. And the third zone of possibility is the zone of opportunities for growth and development. And I think this is the area that so many leaders are really called to really embody so that they can have a vision to encourage and inspire others to the land of we. Growth and development really requires being part of a we which supports the I. And isn't that what people really are yearning for? Opportunities to be part of the we are what pull us forward in an evolutionary way. And I'd like to suggest to you that when we are talking for opportunities of we really can't talk to people who are in fear states, because in fear we don't respond to opportunities for growth and development. So learning how to recognize what the states that people are in are really an important kind of phenomena of these times. With that said, I have the great pleasure of introducing us to Taleh Kazimov, who is going to show you what embodying the zone of growth and development look like by even coming to join us for this Coaching Care Summit. He's going to share with you how he uses himself and how he uses himself as a leader to help understand how to respond to people confronting fear or the need for learning. So with that, I invite us to this segment of how Taleh Kazimov, CEO of Pasha Bank in Baku, Azerbaijan, with affiliates in Georgia and Turkey, uses his leadership to really offer healing and hope in these very challenging times. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. First of all, I would like to express my exceptional gratitude to Dorothy for inviting me to join this summit and for this offering. And thank you very much for this introduction, as you did. Before I start my story, maybe a couple of minutes, I will tell you about who we are and what we are doing as an organization, which I'm leading. So we are the largest commercial bank in the country. Yes, as Dorothy said, I'm CEO for this organization. As I got to my 32 years, in just 5 years, I'm already at the position of CEO, and we grew at about 3 times our asset size, 4 times our credit portfolio, 7 times our net income grew for the last 5 years. Average return on equity, we're receiving 30%. I understand maybe it's not very interesting, but I'm a finance guy. I mean, I have to come with some figures, definitely. We have, as Dorothy said, we have subsidiary in Georgia and Turkey. Quite successful organization, largest by the way, in the region of Caucasus. And now we faced with the situation like pandemic, and which also will cause the economic recession, definitely, even after we will pass these difficult days in terms of the pandemic and virus expansion. I have passed several crises through my career in Pasha Bank. I'm already 13 years with Pasha Bank. Economic crises, micro-organizational level crises, yeah, we pass it. But this one is totally different. I mean, we have never faced that. I have never had faced this kind of experience. This crisis, first of all, hits people health. Yes, so it's not something that you can lose and then you can recover. Okay, this is health, which if you lose, you won't be able to recover it. So, as all globally, we also face this situation. And in addition to that, as Dorothy said before, we are very oil price sensitive country because we are the exporters of the oil, and the economy very dependent on oil prices. And you can imagine that end of February, March, beginning of March, this global pandemic announcement, and also in addition, Saudi Arabia, together with Russia, cannot come to agreement, and oil prices decreases. Yes, suddenly. So we have 2 panics in the country. First is pandemic virus, and second is local currency devaluation. So people facing with the situation, people facing with 2 risks. First is losing the health, and second, losing the wealth. Okay, and as you understand, in a stressful situation, okay, it's very difficult. And it's in stressful situation, and during the capitalism era, it's really difficult to decide which goes first, because without health, you won't be able to get wealth. Without wealth, if you will be hit by the virus, you won't be able to be treated or to pay your loans, and etc. So it's very difficult situation for organization, and particularly for our bank. I mean, for financial institution in Azerbaijan, and I believe in any part of the world, because banks should continue to serve. Okay, and due to panic on the unnecessary panic on currency devaluation, banking community decide to serve 7 days per week. Okay, so without weekends. So it's additional burden to my people in terms of the, first of all, to expose themselves to to be infected. Thanks God, no one till today have been infected. Um, First is they expose themselves for the risk to be infected, and second, they are working without weekends. So that was a really stressful situation. Um, you're receiving a call from HR that some employees' parents calling asking to fire their child, because they don't want to expose the child to this risk, but child is willing to come to work. Um, you don't have a place to go for the suggestion, because you will go to chairman. Chairman also have never had this experience with pandemia. Everyone is asking you as a leader to tell what will happen. Okay, and you also don't know what will happen, because it's really uncertain period of time. And what started to bring additional pressure for me as a CEO is when you started to recognize, like, we all know, I mean, when the human being is threatened, he or she become, let's call it, less smart. Okay, so less thinking about solution and making a decision, more trying to defense uh, his or herself, or uh, turning on survival mode. So that's block creativity, blocks visionary thinking, and etc. So I started to recognize that my smart people started uh, to be to become less smart. Okay, if we can call it right like this. And that's another challenge and pressure, because the organization should be managed, and in a period of time, it's impossible to work. And in this kind of period, it's impossible to lead organization alone. I mean, you need a team, so it's teamwork basically. So, in the middle of this fire shooting, first weeks of pandemia, in the middle of fire shooting, I don't know, in the middle of war, let's go like this, I receiving a call from my assistant, which saying, should I cancel the coaching session with Dorothy? So first, I'll be honest, first my thought was like, of course, yes, because I have here fire everywhere. So we need to deal with that. Then I will work and I can improve myself, let's say. But at some point, I recognized that, by the way, the coach, and I asked my assistant, could you check whether she willing to have it, or in this difficult period, or she just it's you see it in a calendar. You just ask. She said no. I talked to Dorothy, and Dorothy's really keen to have a coaching session with you. I said, wow, if she's really interested in having a coaching session with me, that's also motivates me to do that. And second, I said, by the way, coach is the only person who most probably will not ask me what to do, Taleh. Okay, because you're meeting with government saying what we are going to do. You're meeting with your employees, what we are going to do. Everyone is asking questions, okay? And you should answer, okay? That's really difficult. And particularly, you have a pressure that reputation of mine is like, I know I'm a strong, I know what we do, I know where we go, here our story. And in this situation, I don't know where we go, okay? That's tough. So I decided, yes, I have definitely to do this coaching session, and I started to share my thoughts and my observations, what's going on. By the way, very important thing regarding this first session, which by the way was most important meeting for the last 2 months, I guess. It's not because Dorothy's hearing that, but really, because I was so under the pressure, and um, I still remember her smile when she said, Taleh, with a pause, and this, how are you? So that was first question about how I am, with expressions that I know that it's difficult to you. Okay, but before, through all the days, I have heard this question, but that was more about just for asking for the sake of asking. Okay, And after this question from Dorothy, I was like, I become a small child, and I said, I'm stressed. Okay, and we started to discuss and shared about my observations, about my thoughts, and as it should be, I allow my coach to push myself, to help me push myself to another level. I mean, to think what we can do, and I shared my observation regarding the my team, which is first of all uh, threatened, and I need them to be in team to manage the organization because I won't be able to do it alone. And through all the discussion, we come up to the conclusion that through this kind of situation, this kind of crisis, leadership requires another level. So you can imagine, you should, as a leader, you should lead threatened people in uncertain situation. So there are two very difficult, challenging situations. First is they are threatened. It's difficult to lead threatened people. And by the way, you don't know exactly where you lead them. So it brings leadership to another level. It's totally different story. And uh, and through this coaching session, I also admit to myself that, listen, I also afraid. Okay. But maybe mentally from our country as a CEO, I have a mental thoughts like I'm uh, father for this organization. Even if I lose my health, should stand in front of all of the problems. So I cannot give up. I should go further. Okay, and then I need my team. So we discussed, and she suggested me, why you will not try to talk to them? Why you will not share with them that why you are not, that you are afraid? You are afraid. You should admit that. Okay. So, and you also should express some um, level of empathy that you also understand that they are afraid. Okay, and that was very good outcomes of maybe I think it was very critical because during the crisis when you dealing with fire shooting, your mind is closed. I mean, you cannot think, you cannot look inner in yourself just to understand what's going on and what you should do. And session like I had in the middle of March, it stopped me, calmed me down, and I mean I wasn't under the stress at that period, and I was able to think wisely. Okay, what we should do. And to be honest, after a couple of days, I had a board of directors meeting. Okay, who was also under the stress, and they were saying, "We're expecting from you this and that, from your employees this and that." Okay, and I interrupt them and said that, guys, we cannot lead our people like this in this kind of situation. I want to admit in front of you that in front of my board of directors, that, guys, I'm afraid. Okay, you also used to see Taleh as a strong leader. I'm afraid, and don't tell me that you don't afraid. Okay, you also afraid. There was a silence. Okay, 30, 45 seconds, and I said, we cannot lead our people like this. They're threatened. Okay, and our responsibility is to understand their situation, to support them to move further. Okay, so we need them to overcome all this strategy. Of course, I mean, it's board of directors to official, everyone is very important. They said, yes, you're right, and etc. No, they said, yes, you're right, but again, we should do this. But honestly, since middle of March till today, ton of discussions totally changed. Okay, so it's the most supporting board of directors I have ever had or seen. Okay, so I had a discussion with my executive team and shared with them the situation. I said, guys, I'm afraid, on the current situation. I honestly don't know what to do. Okay, so don't expect me that I will tell you exactly what we are going to do. But the only thing that I definitely know that it's whether fear will overcome us or we overcome the fear, because this is fact. We all are in crisis, and we should first of all care of our health, physical and mental, and we also and we should go further, or this fear will overcome us and we will not be able to pass this crisis as a team. And I need you. So guys, I understand you are afraid, but I believe all together we can go further. I think that's also was a very critical moment when I started to see that, yes, I mean, mind shift in executive team started to very really clean. I was able to see how their approach in the work started to change. I started to do, and then I realized that while doing fire shooting, while during the crisis, okay, and when my team is threatened to lose the health, okay, I understood that people, while I'm doing fire shooting, they don't feel leader next to them. They don't see leader next to them. Maybe they see and hear, but they don't feel that there is a person who understands their fear, who supports them. And honestly, I recognize that, listen, they can fire shoot much better than I can do because they are on the field. Okay, they just need leader next to them. And I start to do small things like I started to call. I have never done this before. For example, I started to call every through the week to 50 to 20 people, randomly selected. HR was provided me with information what they have done, just calling and saying thanks for their efforts and those things they have done as a CEO. Okay, so I did before, but during the pandemic, I stopped to do that. I started to do breakfasts, video breakfasts. Yes, I started to do. Should I stop?
No, you shouldn't stop. The question is, how do we
Okay.
find the time? You opposite.
Okay.
I would say, Taleh, this is a moment of I'm sitting with the enjoyment. I have what you don't see. I'd like to just report back. We could both take a breath together. But so many people are saying thank you for allowing your story, your vulnerability, your effort. But especially as you tell the story, you know, we had a graphic, but your story is so much bigger than the graphic. I would like to just hold this moment with you, every moment with you, Taleh. As you say this now, what stands out is how can you, you're living in uncertainty and yet you're using yourself to offer empathy to others. And at the same time, you, in the uncertainty, what's the mind shift that wherever you go now you're going to support? And what's the vision in the uncertainty you offer? I would like those words from you as we close down.
Even if the most important person in this kind of situation, in uncertainty, is in a fear zone. I think through the empathy, authentic empathy, I will call it like this. Leaders should move team, people they lead to learning zone. I mean, from the graph which we discussed with you, so to learning zone, and in the learning zone, people will be able to open the eyes and see the potential, understand the real situation, understand how they can manage, and move further. Because every threat also has an opportunity. Also creates some opportunities to change ourselves personally or to bring new value to this world. By the way.
Could you say that again? It's so compelling. Could you just say that sentence again?
I believe that every crisis, every threat, okay, can bring new opportunities to change personally, okay, to be much better person in this life, and also bring new value for all the community, for all environment, for all the entire world. Because threat also creates these opportunities for people. So it's most important that you can manage this fear. You are able to learn from it.
Well, Taleh, the last words were you, but I want to say that we have a mission. Sometimes I want to borrow, it's a Hebrew phrase, the idea that we have tikkun olam, the healing of the world. And I think what you've really shown is how to master the inner monster, which is fear. So many people have responded. that by owning your fear, you made it normal for other people to say it'll be okay. And your voice now, I think you are the father. Leadership is to be the father archetypally, to use your wisdom to calm down the chaos into order. So this moment is bigger than us. We will have to debrief. I just thank you from my heart to your heart, and for the courage of what you've just said to us. Many, many comments. The learning zone is internal leadership. Came from Len Rotman, who's also a speaker. Thank you. And I want to just thank you for showing us your interior, your empathy, and your courage.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for listening.
And
thank you for this opportunity. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Taleh Kazimov. I really hope you have a chance to read through because you got so many great comments. Thank you so much for your empathy, your truthfulness, your vulnerability, your caring. That's what's standing out for people. You're CEO, you're a go-getter, and yet here you are, really possessing the qualities we all seek to have during these difficult times. So thank you again so much, Dr. Dorothy Siminovitch and Mr. Taleh Kazimov. Thank you for sharing your time with us today.
Thank you very much.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank
Little smile can change the world, guys.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
And a big heart.
So
Bye. Thank you very much for the comments, and take care.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. For anyone who would like to get in touch with Dorothy, here are some of her contact information. I do just want to share one last note. Dorothy was so excited to come on here and felt compelled she wanted to give an additional pledge. So on behalf of herself and Mr. Kazimov, she has donated to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So thank you so much for continuing to give and to show care to the world.